Good morning to the honorable ministers of the council, members of the media, radio listeners via St. Martin Gov Radio 107.9 FM, Telumcel TV Plus, respective radio stations island-wide, online and TV 15 viewers. I'm Rolika Roach and welcome to the live Council of Ministers press briefing for today, Wednesday, February 1st, 2023. At this time, I would like to invite the Honorable Minister of Tourism, Economic Affairs, Transport, and Telecommunication, Arthur Lambrix, to address you. Minister Lambrix, you have the floor.
Good morning, fellow ministers. Good morning, members of the media. Good morning to the press. Good morning to those listening via social media and through the radio. I just wanted to quickly touch on my press release that I made a few days ago on my return from the FCCA conference. Everything went very well. I had good connections with everyone. They were very happy to see that we had a minister, an active minister that is, familiar with the field. A lot of them I knew from before, so it was good to reconnect with them. We discussed a lot of ways forward, strategies, different things for the country, such as increasing the cruise calls to stay later in port, in the off-season, having them come more frequent to our ports so that we don't really have much of a dead season, per se, as what we have now. Also to try to get new business like the Virgin Atlantic cruises to come to our shores. So we had some positive feedback and we should see some positive outcomes from it. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Lambrix, for your opening remarks. At this time, I would like to invite the Honorable Prime Minister and Minister of General Affairs, Silveria Jacobs, to address you. Prime Minister Jacobs, you have the floor.
Thank you, Rolika. Good morning to you. Good morning to my colleagues. Good morning to the media present here today. And of course, all those following this broadcast via whichever medium. Today, as the first day of February, I would like to continue to give thanks. We are into a new month. Give thanks to God for health and life and that we continue to persevere even in the most difficult of times. We want to focus on the heart as the organ that spreads awareness and make sure that we take care of that heart that pumps the blood through our systems. We would also like to show appreciation for our loved ones, extend kindness and love to the people we meet. Let this month be a month that we take extra care and notice for those who need it the most, especially the most vulnerable. As you know, we also observe Black History Month in the month of February. Every month, we should observe and recognize our history as Black people, of course, which makes up the majority of St. Martin. So the special attention being paid to it, as we know, is because of the lack of information over the years. But I've seen a renewed interest in our history, in our heritage, with all that is being said within the community. And I would like to thank all those who are generating conversations about awareness and recognition of cultural history, pride, national pride as well. As we must pay homage to those who came before and laid the groundwork for what we are able to do today. I would like to give a word of thanks within the Ministry of General Affairs. I've taken note of the extra work being put in by the Civil Registry Department. Several of the workers are putting in extra hours daily to be able to work on the backlog that exists within registry and cleaning up the registry. And so I just wanted to say a special thank you to them. Over the past couple of weeks, the organizing committee for the royal visit have been busy preparing. And so in advance, I would like to give them thanks for the extra work that they're putting in, as well as to the different community groups that will be taking part in the royal visit, which is upcoming on the 6th and 7th of February. More information will be given about this in the coming weeks, in the coming days. I will stay there for now, Rolika, and allow the media to ask whatever questions they may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Prime Minister Jacobs, for your opening remarks. At this time, I would like to invite the Honorable Minister of Public Housing, Spatial Planning, Environment, and Infrastructure, Egbert Duran, to address you. Minister Duran, you have the floor.
Thank you, Rolika. Good morning, Prime Minister, colleague minister, members of the media, and a special good morning to the people of St. Martin. Today, I have a few brief updates. I'd like to start with the roadworks. As some of you may realize, we started with the yearly road resurfacing program. We started in the area of Bush Road, in the direct vicinity of the Prince Bernard Bridge, also including the Prince Bernard Bridge. This is also part of our yearly maintenance road resurfacing project, along with the patchwork that takes place on a 24/7 basis. We are also busily finalizing the repairs of the Prince Bernard Bridge, so this will also complement the project in its entirety with respect to the railings and also the bird watch towers that I mentioned earlier, well, in the ending of last year. So that is also ongoing. I would like to also take this time out to thank the staff of the Ministry of Rummy, in particular the Infrastructure Management Department, for all the late nights that they are putting in work on all these days, because the fact that we have so much cruise ships in port, they can't work during the day. And we'll also see that and realize that we can get a lot done internally as well. So that is a different project that we are basically piloting and having our staff do a lot of work that normally we would outsource. And that has proven to be effective. I've heard a lot of stories about the road patching crew, that the road works crew that took place, I think, in the early 90s. And it's proven that we can do a lot of things internally, and that's also part of the reason we're also recruiting skilled workers as well to assist with that project. So from not only from the field of carpentry and also works, but also operating heavy machinery, diesel mechanics, and we are just adding to our stock basically. It's limited in what they can do, but we are pushing forward to get more human resource to get that done. So I just wanted to give a special thanks to the guys that were out last night till in the wee hours of the morning, putting in that work and doing different things in and around the island. I also want to give an update on the digital permits application. We got feedback last week from our supplier basically, and we're going to start with a pilot to do digital permit applications starting March 1st. More information for that will be published in the days to come so that the residents may know how and what to proceed with that is concerned. So I'm talking about building permits digitally. My last point I have, today we'll be attending the stakeholders meeting consultation that will be hosted by the NRPB. And basically the idea is how can we better manage solid waste on St. Martin? I think that this is a very important initiative. I look forward to healthy discussions and debates. There was the registration. I'm not sure if it's closed off as yet. However, I was told that there is a very vast amount of individuals that showed interest from citizens, school boards, business owners, and I look forward to a healthy discussion where that is concerned, because waste is not only my problem, it's all of our problem if we want to build a sustainable economy for St. Martin moving forward. A couple of weeks ago, I mentioned that I had meetings with the community councils and the garbage haulers, and how can we work together more to clean up St. Martin. That meeting went well. The planned cleanup will be published also in the next week. Actually, will be published when we were doing the general cleanup in different districts. I had a good discussions with members of the EPIC organization and assisting us and also giving ideas on ways and means we can do that. And I think that we need to really take pride in our rock. I've been saying it over the last couple of weeks, and I will continue to say it, because I believe that we need to do what we need to do to get our island back to where we want it to be and set our own standards. That will be all for now. Ms. Roach, thank you for the opportunity, and I look forward to any questions the media might have.
Thank you, Minister Duran, for your opening remarks. If you've just joined us, you are watching the live Council of Ministers press briefing for today, Wednesday, February 1st, 2023. Thank you so much for joining us. We now move on to the question and answer session. The floor is open. Bibi Haj Shah of SMN News, you have the floor.
Thank you, Relaika. Good morning, colleagues. Good morning, ministers. My first question is to the Prime Minister of St. Martin. Prime Minister Jacobs, can you at least tell us how much the royal visit will cost the country?
Unfortunately, good morning again to you. I do not have that number in my head, so I wouldn't be able to share that with you. There is a lot of preparations being done. I could remember back in early November when initially the discussions started. Some of the things that were mentioned are just regular things that we would do as a government anyway, so it's not necessarily royal visit related. So it's things that we have to ensure that we do on a regular basis that is for our citizens anyway. So things like ensuring cleanliness and sprucing up different areas. And we did that just before Christmas around the government building and areas like that. So the budget has been readjusted. There is a cost, of course, to the government of St. Martin, as with all of the countries currently hosting the royal family. They started in Bonaire, they're in Aruba, and today they go on to Curacao. And yeah, that is what it is. So I'll have to look into the committee to see where we are with the budget at this time.
Thank you, Prime Minister Jacobs, and thank you, Bibi, for the question. I would now like to invite Stephen Cerulean of PJ82 Radio. You have the floor.
Thank you, Ms. Roach. Good morning to you, Prime Minister, Ministers. Good morning to you as well. My question is for the Prime Minister. During the recently held information session held by your person in connection with atonement, slavery and reparation, the keynote speaker stressed on the need to have the slavery committee be established as quickly as possible, as there is a lot of work to be done. How far ahead are you with that committee, and have you been able to identify the persons to at least serve on the committee?
Thank you for that question, Stephen. Indeed, yes, we did hear that cry, and many of the persons who were in that meeting were persons that we had contacted as well to find out their interests, etc. The finalization of those decrees are being handled as we speak for the appointment of the members to the committee. So hopefully by the end of next week, I can be able to give you a clearer picture as to who is on the committee, and hopefully we've had our first meeting by then, if not the week thereafter.
Thank you, Prime Minister Jacobs, and thank you, Stephen Lyndon Brown of BCN TV. You have the floor.
Good morning to the people of St. Martin, and question to the Prime Minister. Prime Minister, the question is, the King is coming. And there are a lot of activities surrounding the coming of the King, Prime Minister. What will be the benefit? How the visit of the King will benefit St. Martin?
That's a very interesting question. How does it benefit St. Martin? These are visits that the royal family, I can remember when I was younger, when Prince William Alexander was introduced, when he came of age. So they have planned, the royal family has planned, let's say, an introduction of Her Royal Highness Princess Amalia to the rest of the Dutch kingdom, which is the Caribbean parts, and that's why these visits are planned. It's a normal thing that happens within the kingdom. It's, let's call it, quote unquote, traditional. And so what good does it do? I know in past, citizens would look out to meet the royal family. They would come out, greet, say hello, etc. And there are still many people on St. Martin who hold that in high esteem. And so they are encouraged to come out and see the royal family. It's an introduction of the princess to the country and the country to the princess. So basically it's an introductory meeting of sorts where she also gets to see about our culture, our heritage, etc. And so that is basically, they have requested to interact with the people. So it is a get to know you trip as far as I can surmise.
Thank you, Prime Minister Jacobs, and thank you, Lyndon. I would now like to invite Andrew Dick of TV15. You have the floor.
Thank you. Good morning, Ms. Roach, and good morning to the ministers present. My question is for Minister Doran and also the Prime Minister. Concerning GEBE, I know a report was due a couple of weeks ago. Prime Minister, you said that that week the report would be finalized and then a meeting would take place with GEBE management. So if you can give me an update on that. And also, Minister Lambrix, on Sunday, we had a blackout. The airport was out for 1 hour. Can you give me an update as to whether the ministry was concerned that passengers had no light for 1 hour, no energy for 1 hour? Yes, Prime Minister.
Prime Minister.
Yes, indeed. I think I mentioned this last week already, that we did receive the reports digitally We have to review them. There's quite some information, so the meeting hasn't been scheduled as yet. But as soon as it has been, and we have an update, that will be reported.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Minister Lambrix.
In regard to your question, Mr. Andrew Dick, I happened to actually be on the airport. As soon as I stepped foot into the baggage area, the lights turned off. I remained actually in the area until everything came back on. Mr. Mingo and his team, coincidentally, were very receptive to meet me the following morning. I did a complete walkthrough. We also discussed the situation with the lights being off. And he reassured me that the situation, why it occurred, although it was GB blackout, that the generators didn't kick on, that it would not reoccur, basically. We found out what the situation was, and they have adjusted it and made sure that it won't happen again. There's also, I believe, a backup to the backup, so we should be okay from now on with that situation. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Lambrix, and thank you, Andrew. We now move on to the second round. Bibi, you have the floor.
Thank you, Relaika. My question to the Minister of TIAT, Minister Lambrix. You just mentioned that you had a tour at PJIE, as well as a discussion with the CEO. Can you now give us an update on the project, as well as shed some light and clarity on the amount of resignations that is taking place at PJIE? What is the status exactly?
Thank you, Ms. Shaw, for your question. I can shed light for sure on the walkthrough and the status of the airport, which everything is maybe not as transparent as what it should be for the public to know what's going on. However, the walkthrough that I did through the departure hall, which is where the main focus is right now, is moving pretty rapidly. I was quite impressed to see what was and wasn't done. What is left to be done is really not too much. So in the discussions, we also try to find ways that maybe more focus can be put on those areas and ignore maybe something else to make sure that that departure hall is finished and maybe finished in a timely manner so that we can, enjoy it and residents don't arrive in a bad foot and leave on a bad foot. At least they can depart on a nice note. And then from there, the airport can continue progressing after and doing the rest. Resignations, I am just in office. Honestly, I have not had a chance to. I've heard about them, I've read about them, the history behind of them, why, what, I cannot tell you right now, but I will let you know as soon as I have my own analysis on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Lambrix. Stephen, you have the floor.
Thank you again, Ms. Roach. My question is for the Prime Minister. Prime Minister, since taking up office of His Excellency on October 10th, we have not heard much about a deputy governor for St. Martin. What's the process? What's the holdback in that a suitable candidate is appointed to the position of deputy governor?
Yes, Stephen. Indeed, that has been a challenge to find someone that is basically willing to give up a lot of finding someone suitable on the island who can afford to fill in for the governor. It's not a full-time job, but because of the type of job it is, it makes it difficult for you to continue if you have been affiliated with government before. Most of the persons we have discussed the possibility with do have some kind of a working relationship with government, and so it's not feasible for them because the compensation as acting governor is not commensurate with what they could earn in working for government or consulting for government, or if they have or they work in a company that maybe has a high level of, so there are different reasons. We're still having the discussion. I really wanted to be able to be finished with it already by the end of last year. I'm also in discussion with His Excellency because this person would have to work with him. And so we hope to have it finalized within the next few weeks. It is a difficult thing to find someone. But we do have someone on the scope. We had two, but I just actually received an email that, that other person may not work out. But we're still trying to see, moving forward, to put someone in place that will have the respect of the community, that is integer, and that will be able to substitute as needed for His Excellency when is called upon. The legislation also has to be looked at. This is something I've had discussions with the State Secretary, as it is a kingdom law. It's not something that we can change in how this is done, because there are several persons who are interested, but the package itself is not feasible for persons who are in the prime of their lives and have a better chance to earn a living that is substantial. Let's call it that. It's not a substantial compensation for the type of work. It's really, we were very blessed to have Mr. Groeneveld, God rest his soul, who had an established business and, was not in his, like, the younger age in terms of ability to move around, etc., had already gone through many, many experiences. So we're looking at people who are still willing, and hopefully by, let's say, I'm going to give myself until the end of February. I was aiming to be done by now, but seeing the recent information, hopefully we can round it off within short. Everyone is interested in getting it finalized. Thanks for that question.
Thank you, Prime Minister Jacobs, and thank you, Stephen. Lyndon, you have the floor.
Question to the Minister of Romy. Minister of Romy, the people of this quarter are very angry. Minister, the stench from since the septic, have been shuttled into the Illich Road. It has a stench every day. About 20 years ago, Mr. Roberto Marlin had mentioned he was working with the sector health, and he said, is it not good to run the septic from so far? There will be consequences. Minister, what's your plan? Do you plan to have the Dutch Quarter area independent to avoid, because what they're saying, there will be situation over and over.
Thank you for your question, Mr. Brown. I addressed this point last week and also through the week in the media, but I don't mind addressing it again. And I think you mentioned Mr. Marlin. Yeah, I'm not sure who that is, but I think he was right, and we should have took heed to his advice 20 years ago, because pumping septic over a hill has proven to be a challenge and still continues to be a challenge. However, we are here now. It is my responsibility to deal with, and I'm dealing with it the best way we can. I also gave a breakdown as to the amount of time we are pumping it on a daily basis in order to decrease the nuisance that residents may have to deal with. I had a meeting last week as well with the landowner of where the current where pit 4 is located. So we're in those discussions as well. That is also a problem that wasn't solved over 25 years. So these are things that I'm dealing with. It has my full attention, and I'm on a daily basis busy with the situation. So I hope that that answers your question.
Thank you, Minister Duran. Thank you, Lyndon. Andrew, you have the floor.
Thank you, Prime Minister and also Minister of Romy. The NRPB yesterday in the Daily Herald article gave some interesting information concerning the relocation of the project of persons leaving and being relocated. Now, as far as the status is concerned, they're undocumented, and homes are going to be built for these persons. Does it mean that government will facilitate legalizing these persons once they have been relocated?
Thank you for your question, Andrew. No, legalization doesn't fall within my purview. And what I was told, and this is just what I was told because we still have to get the full detailed report on the resettlement action plan, is that majority of those individuals are legal residents, whether Dutch passport holders or permanent residency and the like. So that is what was conveyed to us. In regards to your first question, I didn't grasp it.
The relocation. So now that the homes are going to be built, because homes going to be built, but it means that they still would have to.
Okay, majority of those individuals as well. I think maybe even I'll dare to say 90% have opted to be compensated and not relocated. Hence the reason I haven't been mentioning the relocation and building of temporary homes for those individuals over the last maybe 6 or 7 months. So this information about them rather taking compensation has been over the last 8 months was established. Some of them even signed documents already to that effect. And we're talking not only residents, but residents and some businesses. There are 1 or 2 challenges in terms of relocation, and we are busy looking into that as a Ministry of Economy.
Thank you, Minister Duran. Thank you, Andrew. We now move on.
Asked also the Prime Minister.
Sorry about that, Prime Minister Jacobs.
I really didn't have anything else to add. The minister did cover it in regards to relocation. The question for me? The minister gave a full answer. That's the answer. On the legalization front, that's persons actually right now, I believe the Minister of Justice has given a 6-month grace period for persons who, so it's open to any person who are business owners or business who have persons working that don't have their papers in order to submit and do that. So I think this would be an opportune moment for any of those persons to do so who do not have. But as Minister mentioned, the majority of persons of the list that was compiled via the committee is legal residents of St. Martin. The majority, the vast majority.
Thank you, Prime Minister Jacobs. We now move on to the third round. Bibi, you have the floor.
Thank you, Rolika. Prime Minister, a couple of years ago, I believe 2019 or 2018, SZV repaired this government building so that people could have moved into this building. Today we have a second bid to be able, that is out to be able to fix the roof. I believe at that time the fixing of the roof was not foreseen. Can you tell us how is this going to be financed? Will this cause an increase in the mortgage payment? And has government been up to date with its mortgage for this government building toward SZV?
Thank you, Bibi. Indeed, the building belongs to SZV. So SZV has to, let's say, finance the major renovations or upgrades, repairs for the building. Since I've been here, we've had several discussions to finalize a maintenance plan so that it is clear what is for the responsibility of for us as government using the building, as for SZV owning the building. I believe it is almost finalized. I haven't received it as yet, but the stakeholders from government and SZB have been working on this. Several things have already changed. And yes, the discussion as to what was still needed to be done did require increase, but that is already since last year the case. So there's no new increase as a result of what will happen now. I hope that clarifies. So there has been an increase based on what was ascertained as being necessary since, I believe, around that time, 2020, 2021, and that is ongoing. And so what is out there to be done is for the purview of SZV and will be financed by SZV.
And is government current with this payment towards SZV?
As far as I know, I would have to double check, of course, but indeed that had been part of the agreement that we would be timely with our payments.
Thank you, Prime Minister Jacobs. Stephen, you have the floor.
Thank you, Ms. Roach. My question is for the Minister of TIAT, Minister Lebrex. Recently, you had the opportunity to at least walk through Phillipsburg, Front Street, the boardwalk, together with the Minister of Romy. Firstly, some of your findings that urgently needed to be addressed in Phillipsburg in particular, and what are your plans for the marketplace? We know your previous colleague spoke of the possibility of having to upgrade that area. Anything in the pipeline as it pertains to that? And if I may tie you, Minister Vromi, to that question, the old government building has been the same since 2017. What's taking place with that?
Minister Duran.
Thank you, Rolika. I'll start with in respect to Phillipsburg. As I mentioned, the staff from the Ministry of Romy has been out all these nights doing the different repairs and so forth in Front Street and Back Street. Secondly, with respect to the government administration bill. Oh, also, I in the process of commissioning someone to do a study on sort of based on our infrastructure for persons that are differently able to have easy access, because we noticed there are some challenges, especially along Front Street and Back Street, where that is concerned, where it is completely inaccessible to them. So that is taking place in conjunction with the Ministry of TIAT, with the beautification side of things, but also from the infrastructure perspective. Now, in regards to the government building demolition, Stephen, it is an ISO for me because even when I come out on my porch from the office, I have to see it. As I explained time and time again, there were some serious health hazards there that we had to go through the due diligence of having a specialist come and remove them. That was done approximately 5 months ago. After that, we had to do a second walkthrough to determine the scope of works. Then we had to put out the bidding. After that, the evaluation had to take place. In the meantime, I commissioned SORB to assist the ministry in its entirety with all bidding processes because that has proven to be a challenge over the years. I took it upon myself to separate it from the ministry to a certain extent because SORB are basically government's auditors to make sure that we are doing things and set up a particular framework, which will be the case for us moving forward. That took a lot of time because they have to assess what you want, what you have, and what you need to get what you want. All those processes took place. The bidding process was completed. They are in the final stages now of preparing the awarding advice. But again, this is not the private sector. Every guilder, every cent, I'm accountable to you, the people of St. Martin, including myself as a taxpayer. So you have to go through all these processes. I understand that it's taking much longer than expected with the trenching, with the district cleaning, all these different things. However, I cannot just make haphazard decisions and say, go and do this now today because there are processes that need to be followed. Because else you'll be here in a couple of weeks from now asking me different questions why I didn't follow procedures. So I'm not going at you particularly, but I'm just saying for the general public to understand that it's an eyesore to me as well. It's a bother to me as well. However, we are doing what we need to do. I'm sure you can look around in the last couple of weeks. You're seeing they are cutting the grass all around. They are dealing with the trenches. Although some politicians might want to paint doom and gloom on, oh, if the trenches full up and the risk and all these different things and how much people could die, and they keep putting the same article out. Fact is, we had a lot of rain a couple months ago, and we make sure, the staff make sure that everything was clear cut. We survived, we are here now, and we're moving forward. But things have to be done in a particular way. And you cannot continue to do the same thing and expect a different result. So I must say, after all the intense meetings with the staff and SORB and also the Integrity Chamber who gave certain trainings as well, I believe that we're on the right path. I believe that the ministry is moving forward, and I look forward to every day giving updates. Also want to include the road resurfacing in that because that took some time as well. So I hope that answers your question in its entirety, and I look forward to every week coming back and giving updates on all these different projects. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Duran. Minister Lambrix.
Yes, good morning again. Thank you for the question. Myself and Minister Duran, we did a complete walkthrough of Phillipsburg, as you all saw. We found a lot of different areas which maybe were not visible before. You know, I came in with a new eye maybe, but I had good cooperation with the minister. I think we're moving forward very well. If you look throughout Front Street already, you'll see some of the dead trees removed, certain things closed up. You know, we have some good plans for that whole area, as well as for the boardwalk and as well as Back Street, which I'm happy to hear from the minister as well that he has not forgotten about the assisted parking areas and access for the wheelchairs to get up and down the ramps and different areas, which is very important because more and more of our visitors, you know, we're seeing it more and more. They get more independent. They're more able to cruise, more able to come in, but then when they get to our town, they're not able to move around. So that was one of the main focuses. Otherwise than that, we're trying to see how we can get everyone involved, even the store owners, different people, private sector, you know, to try to help with that whole beautification progress. So we will be reaching out to them, and, you know, hopefully we'll have good feedback and everyone is on board and we can get things moving quickly. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Lambrix. I would now like to invite Lyndon. You have the floor.
Question to the Prime Minister. Prime Minister, as the European has committed a crime against the black people, and the King gonna be here, Minister, and with collaboration with the 10 points of with CARICOM, what would you say to the King? Of course, December 19, there have been a apology of their role in enslaving the black race, Minister. Now we have seen the legacy of slavery is in our faces, but this can be a prime time. What would you say to the King? Do you have a letter, a document to present to him?
Mr. Brown, the question you're asking, I think was asked, I think you were at that session that we had with the Reparations Committee, with Mr. Omar there as CARICOM's Reparations Committee Vice President. And he clearly, in his lecture, informed that according to their standards, and they are the leaders in this discussion, the head of state is who should issue the apology. And the head of state is the Prime Minister of the Netherlands. So Mr. Rutte's apology checked that box for them, in that it is the highest member of state of the country. So that being said, I do not have any plans to request of the King any further apologies. In fact, I am very happy that he is interested to investigate for himself his family's role in the period of enslavement and in the slave trade. And so I look forward to the good that will come out of that investigation.
Thank you, Prime Minister Jacobs, and thank you, Lyndon. Andrew, you have the final question.
Thank you, Prime Minister. The Minister of Finance is not here, so maybe you can shed some light on the Kingdom Council of Ministers stating that the budget for 2023 has to be presented by the end of March. Will you make that deadline?
Yes, in fact, just yesterday, the budget was approved in the Council of Ministers to be sent on to the Council of Advice. As you know, we had submitted it before, but some changes had to be made based on advices that had come in. So it was retracted, brought back. The changes were made. We are presenting now a balanced budget. Of course, we have to do what we have to do to ensure to generate the revenues. And so we'll ask the general public to be aware of the changes that would come to ensure that we can meet our obligations to the population of St. Martin. That will be forwarded to the Council of Advice during the course of this week. With that being done and requesting an urgent advice from them, we aim to be able to make that deadline, indeed. And I must also state here that whilst we as a country move forward with the removal of the decrees for the 12.5% cuts, the Kingdom Council of Ministers also ratified that in their decision of the last meeting, in that they agreed that those were indeed, we had complied with all our obligations and commitments, and that those are removable. So we have already removed them, and the final decree should be signed at least by today for the top incomes law, the one that affected the top incomes law, based on the fact that that law had been amended. So all three go back to the 31st of December with retroactive effect. So the government-owned companies and entities, all of those should be able to enjoy the benefits that they once enjoyed prior to these cuts being made. So we're very, very, very happy to make that announcement as well. Yeah.
Thank you, Prime Minister Jacobs, and thank you, Andrew. Members of the media, this does bring us to the end of the question and answer session. Any further questions can be sent to the Minister's Cabinet in writing. Honorable Ministers of the Council, members of the media, radio listeners, and online viewers, this brings us to the end of the live Council of Ministers press briefing for today, Wednesday, February 1st, 2023. For rebroadcast, tune into St. Martin Gov Radio via 107.9 FM, Telemcell TV Plus, the official Facebook page of the Government of St. Martin, YouTube channel Government of St. Martin, and TV 15. For video on demand, log on to the Government of St. Martin's YouTube channel. On behalf of the Department of Communication and the Government of St. Martin, I'm Rolika Roach and wishing you a pleasant day further.